Hey everyone, welcome to yet another episode of the Between Podcast. I am not your usual host. I am not Mattson. I am a co-host that is often on this podcast, Reverend Dani Hillyer here, and I get the great honor of interviewing Mattson, your usual host of this Between Podcast, the creator of the Between Project, the most sacred space on earth, the space between people. And I'm so excited about this interview today because I get to ask Matt all these wonderful questions about this upcoming book that he's written a book. There it is, folks. If you're looking on the screen, Cathedrals of Connection, written by Mattson. What's the underneath the
Subtitle is Your Invitation to Everyday Sacredness. Your Invitation to Everyday Sacredness. Do you know, fun fact, Dani, this was not the subtitle for the longest time. And the publishers were like, hey, I think you need a better subtitle than what you have. Because my original subtitle was like, Your Invitation to the Simplest Church on Earth. And they were like, people aren't going to pick up that book, man. Like, they're not going to get it. They don't, you know what that means. Nobody else knows what that means. So anyway, the actual subtitle is Your Invitation to Everyday Sacredness.
Your Invitation to Everyday Sacredness? And I mean, thank God for publicists, right? That can
Yeah.
offer you that insight, because there probably are a ton of people who would never touch a book that says church, even though cathedral. But at the same time, I love that everyday sacredness. So, Matt, I've read the book, I've chewed on the book, I love the book. I've known you for a while, and the stories within it, some I had never heard before, some I had, and it was such a warm invitation. Even the way that you open the pages of the book, in the preface, you're talking about a table, how we're seated at a table, just like you're going to meet a friend for coffee, and you do this beautiful imagery. And I want to read a little snippet of it, because I was so infatuated by this as I was rereading it this morning. But you talk about this table, this table that we're seated at in a coffee shop is holding a lot. It's holding the drinks and the pastries that we've ordered, sure, at this coffee shop. But then you say something beautiful. You say, it's an altar, crafted of the same wood that could have ended up in a traditional church pulpit, shaped from the same tree that could have ended up a cross hoisted high atop a steeple, formed from the same timber that could have ended up carved into a sturdy but uncomfortable pew. Instead, it sits here in this coffee shop, inviting you and me to use it as our chancel and our worship space. Then you go on to say, let's build a cathedral of connection. Matt, that's beautiful.
Thanks. Can I be honest? Like, I love writing, and sometimes you write things that you're like, oh man, I really like that. like that. Not everything. Not let's be honest about it. Like, not everything. Not even everything that I post out into the world is something that I'm like, oh, that was really good. Sometimes I'm like, that was mediocre, but it's good enough for today. But that, uh, can I tell you where that came from? I really I had written the book, and I had written a version of the book, and you had actually read an early version. You were one of a handful of people who helped me with an early version of the book that I shared with people, and they gave me feedback, and really helped me rethink the structure of it and reimagine how it was going. So I was kind of in that stage, and the publisher was like, it's fine, but you've got to redo it. You don't need an editing round. You need to like restructure the book. And so that was the process I was in. And so I was kind of doing a rewrite of the book. And I was actually just out at a coffee meeting with my buddy David at my Starbucks, like right next to my house, like really close to our house. And I remembered like we were sitting together at that Starbucks, and the table that we were sitting at was like this. It's just a regular Starbucks, standard table in their coffee shops, but it's wooden, and it's covered in lacquer. Like it's this, it's wood underneath, like layers and layers and layers of lacquer, and this, it's glossy. And I just had this like almost like out of body, like spiritual moment. This conversation that my buddy David and I were having was really sacred. I mean, genuinely, it was a really beautiful conversation, an important conversation. And I just remember the table like got stuck in my head. Like the image of the table got stuck in my head, and I went home with it and ended up writing later that afternoon, writing that part. And it wasn't like I had an immediate, like while I was talking with David, I was like, this table could have been a cross, or this table could have been an altar. But like that, I can still see that table. In fact, I'm because it's book promotion season, I'm going over to that Starbucks here in the next couple of days to record a video at that table about like the fact that that's where it was. So anyway, that's a real thing. Like actually in a real coffee shop at a real table, I had that realization. I love that you liked that part of the book, Dani. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it I love that you're expanding upon this because people get to hear the inner workings of your mind, which is why this book is so ingenious. Why this project of yours, this between project has been something so unique, so different, so beautiful and so intricate because of the way that you think about the interconnectedness of everything. Like how many people have gone to that Starbucks, sat at that table and thought nothing of it. And yet you're inviting people in the stories that you share in these pages to think beyond, right? To think that the same matter, the same tree, like going beyond to the interconnectedness of all creation and all human beings, which goes to your motto of between that, like, this is sacred. This table that is covered in lacquer and spilt coffee and has seated so many people is sacred because of the stories it holds between the people that sit at it, just as much as an altar holds that, or a church pew, or a cross, or a tree in the wilderness.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, the what I really want is for more people who go to that table at that Starbucks to notice not the table, but to notice God's presence between them, right? And not just that table at that Starbucks, but every table everywhere and every encounter everywhere. Like that's the point of this between project that we're building together, and that we've got a lot of people helping to spread around the world is just that. And I think people are often like, that's it. Like all you want, like the whole point of this whole giant global faith project, this ministry that you're building, like the point is just to have people have conversations that where they notice it's a little more sacred than they used to notice, or that they choose to create moments that can feel more sacred, that can where they can notice God in the space between them. Yeah, like that's it. That's because I think so much of that enchantment, so much of that that spirituality, that mystic truth has been I don't know, hijacked by institution. I love church, the institution of church. You and I work at churches. We care for, like, I love it. I got no problem with it, but that's not the only place it lives, man. The only place that's sacred does not have walls around it and a cross hanging on the back wall. The your random Starbucks, you know, crappy, you know, prefab table is as sacred as that fancy lectern and that fancy altar at your favorite chapel. You know what I mean? Like at least that's the that's what I think. That's what I think.
I I am with you in that thought, and in a phrase that I have been letting seep into my own life, my own ministry is ministry happens in the interruptions.
Yeah.
And I think about life, and life happens in the interruptions. And throughout this book, you even, from a delayed flight to a hotel lobby, like all these stories of sacred moments interrupting our lives, but yet that's where life happens. That's where ministry takes place. Because we can so, organize a perfect worship service. We can plan the perfect vacation with our family. And yet it's the moments we don't plan that become the most sacred and the most holy in retelling our story, which is what you say throughout all of these pages and these chapters.
Yeah. Ministry happens in the interruptions. Yeah,
Mhm.
Dani. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Matt. I know you well, but I know that there are people tuning into this podcast that don't know you well, and I'm not going to make you read the about the author, but I've got a set of some fun, playful questions that I'm going to give you like 2 minutes, and you gotta
Oh,
answer these.
are you introducing a new segment to the Between podcast, Danny? I love it. Yeah. Man, I
Yes.
hand over the microphone one day to Danny and there's a whole new segment.
Look
Okay,
at
what do we
this.
got? What do we got?
I can add this to my resume now, folks. I can interview on a podcast anytime. Oh, Matt, what's your coffee order? If we're going to grab a cup of coffee, what's your typical go-to order?
Black coffee, Danny. That now there are variations to this situation, but normally give me if I go to Starbucks, I'm ordering a black dark roast, whatever like or whatever they got. I'm a simple man, Danny. I grew up drinking gas station drip coffee from the like local small town gas station on the way to wherever I was going to a crappy early morning job when I was a teenager. And I grew up that way because that's how my father taught me to drink coffee. There's an integrity to black coffee, Danny. And in the afternoon, give me a you know what I would like an extra hot grande coconut milk chai with an extra pump of chai and no water. Thank you so much. That's my afternoon coffee order. I've got some
I think
others as
that
well.
that displays your personality so well. You're either
I've got range.
simple as can be, or you're a little much.
But yes, a little much. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I was at a retreat one time and there was a woman when I was getting coffee and I was adding all my creams and sugars like I typically do. And she goes, "Listen, you got to learn to drink black coffee because then you can drink black coffee anywhere."
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Man, that is so true. Anywhere in the world. And once you learn to drink bad gas station coffee, then I found myself in Armenia not too long ago drinking Turkish coffee. Like I don't know if you've ever had Turkish coffee, but it's basically coffee grounds. It's chunky, like you have to chew it. But I was like, you know what? I've had I've had the sit go special down there that had been heating on that burner for the last 48 hours, and I can handle whatever, and it's delicious. Like it's amazing. Anyways,
Good to know. Good to know. This is a note to the podcast listeners to go get yourself a cup of gas station
yeah.
coffee. It's good for you. If you're ordering a pastry with it, what are you getting?
I well, okay. This is a Starbucks promotion today, but maybe that's indicative of a problem I have of spending too much money at Starbucks. But I get their little classic coffee cake, which is just fat in a square. Like it's just a fat pastry square. That's all. It is meant to chunken you up. I'm pretty sure, but that's what I get. That classic coffee cake. That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Black coffee, classic coffee cake. You got it. Book that you cannot stop recommending lately is.
Okay, I listened to this as an audiobook. Megan Watterson wrote a book called The Girl Who Baptized Herself. The Girl Who Baptized Herself. I want to strongly recommend this book. This book introduced me to, okay, now I'm going to sound stupid because I don't really quite remember, but the Gospel of Paul and Thecla, not the Gospel, the
Mm,
something of Paul and Thecla,
mhm.
essentially this non
Yep.
canonical text about this young girl hearing Paul preach, but it's about this transformation. It puts this young woman in the center of the story of the early church and uh, like speaks to not only her transformation but her empowerment and her sort of claiming of self identity, and it's all based on this ancient text, dug up from someplace. Anyway, cool stuff. And the way that Megan Watterson writes that book is it's interspersed with sort of personal memoir, but it's mostly not. And I kind of liked that. I liked that it was a little a little personal, a lot historical, and really kind of shook me because I had just never heard any of these stories before, and it was beautiful and spiritual in a cool way.
Say the title again of this one.
The Girl Who Baptized Herself.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I love that you just opened up that whole can. There are people listening that didn't know there are narratives
Yeah.
biblical times that were not in the canon or the New Testament as we know
Yeah.
it today.
Yeah. That's the good
Oh,
stuff.
Paul and
Yeah.
Thecla.
Yeah.
All right, where is your favorite place to write?
Um, on my phone in the morning. Okay. You know what? You know what?
I'm not, this
You
is
know
not
what?
judgmental.
You
No.
know what? There was somebody posted online the other day, like in a social media feed, like, do any writers actually write on their phone? And like the immediate responses were all these like esteemed authors, like, no, we're not. We're no, are you kidding me? Of course not.
And
And
here's
I
Matt.
I was immediately like, oh, I do. I may not be somebody you I think is a great writer, but um, I I start on my phone. I often don't
Mm.
finish on my phone, but no kidding. Most mornings, I've created this pattern of kind of with my first cup of coffee, especially during the warm summer months. I was sitting on my back deck, sitting in the sun, and I would write something nearly every morning. And that became really uh, like almost ritualistic for me. It was, instead of scrolling and consuming, I was trying to create, I was trying to contribute, and that became a really healthy pattern.
I think there's people listening to that need to hear that healthy conversion that you've just made with the cell phone, right? Like we think, oh, cell phones are bad. We can't we're consumed too much. Yet you can choose to create with this piece of technology. You can choose to be a writer. How accessible that we have these phones in our pockets that yeah, anytime. You know, you might not have a pen and paper, but you've got a notes app in your cell phone that you
Mhm.
can turn to.
Yeah. My notes app is miles long. It is just, you could scroll forever. There is a new thought, and it goes back for years and years and years. Like I would one of my other favorite places to write is an airplane, but I haven't taken a lot of trips lately. I used to travel all the time for work and for lots of other stuff, and I don't travel as much anymore. When I used to travel by myself for work, I mean, immediately when I got on an airplane, I'd order a cup of that crappy black airplane coffee, which, by the way, don't read too much about what flight attendants say about airplane coffee. You will never drink it again. But I don't care. I've had gas station coffee. Bring it on. But bring me a cup of black coffee. They bring that little cup of black coffee, and I would immediately go into writing mode, like immediately on my phone. I've written so much on my phone on an airplane with a bad cup of coffee.
How inspiring. You a early bird or a night owl, Matt?
Oh well, I'm 47 years old. I'm not a night owl, Danny. My kids will be like, "Oh, we're gonna go." I'm a teenager. I'm gonna go out with my friends till like 10, and I'm like, "What? Like, am I supposed to wait up?" And on the weekends, like, can my curfew be 11? Okay, but like, I'm not gonna be up. Like, just call the police if there's a problem because I'm in bed. Anyway, I'm an early morning person, Danny.
Listen, Sheriff, I would have called my dad, but he's asleep. So,
He's asleep. He told me not to bother him.
what
I'm
emoji?
kidding. I'm kidding about that. I'm not a terrible father. Everybody who's listening, somebody just tuned out. They're like, this
Somebody
guy.
said,
Yeah.
"Ooh,
Yeah.
he makes no." What emoji do you use the most?
That laughy, the tilty face, tear,
Yeah.
laughing with tears emoji. And I've been
Mhm.
told that that's not cool. I've been told that like young people only use the skull emoji, like to laugh.
Oh,
That's dark, man. I'm
that
not that guy.
is. That's a
But
new one.
I laugh all that is so indicative of how I am in real life. Like I laugh at everything. It doesn't take much. I'm laughing, ha ha ha. I'm always laughing in a conversation, probably to the point of like, oh, that's inappropriate. Often I find myself laughing, and people are like, or the tone of their conversational change, and suddenly my my response changes in that moment because I'm like, oh, I was laughing too much, and they wanted like solace. they wanted me to be sorrowful with them, and I didn't pick up on that cue. Anyway,
And I
the
missed
laughing
that.
emoji. Yeah.
Oh, are you human, Matt? Oh, oh, are you human? And it's the emoji with the tilted laugh, I think gives a different message than the emoji that's
Yeah.
just
It's
straightforward.
weird that there are both. Some emoji person decided there needed to be a tilty head one and a straight head one, and I don't know why. But yeah, I'm the tilty head one.
What's the most sacred snack food for you?
What? Sacred snack food. Okay, Twizzlers. That's going to be my answer. Twizzlers. Our road trip. I think I write this in the book, which is a funny thing to write in a book like this. But I think our road trip, like gas station snack go to, is Twizzlers and Pringles. Twizzlers and
Mm.
Pringles. Any road trip, if we pop into a gas station on the way, it's like, well, might as well buy some Pringles and Twizzlers just in case. Yeah.
People don't realize it. They have a sacred snack food. Everyone's got their
Yeah, that's fair.
snack that it's not your usual snack. You don't go out and buy Twizzlers and Pringles every day.
What's yours?
When you do, oh, peach rings, you know it's a sacred. I know.
Oh, peach rings. That's
Those
freaky
little
stuff, Danny. Peach
yeah,
rings from the gas station? Those, yeah.
from the
Do you
gas
know,
station.
I'm a circus peanut guy, but only secretly. Do you remember those weird circus peanuts? They are at the gas
Keep
station.
that to yourself. Keep
I
that to
know. I do. I would never share that except for in a safe, sacred space like this, Danny. I love that you're a peach rings person. That's great. Peach rings are
yes.
weird. Yeah, that's
Peach
great.
rings are so weird, and I don't admit that often, but I mean, circus peanuts, come on.
No, fair,
Um,
fair, understood.
if you could host a dinner party with 3 people, living or dead, who is coming?
Do you know I hate this question? I shouldn't hate this question, but like this is a common icebreaker question, and I never have. I feel like you got to have a really clever answer to this
Mhm.
question, or it's like, well, Jesus, I suppose Jesus. I don't know. I mean, I guess that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, Danny. Can I just say I don't know. I
Mhm.
pass. I would like to hit the buzzer and pass to my partner. I will phone a friend. Danny, do you have any answer to this question?
I do, and it is just my husband and my kids. There's 3 of them. They're coming with me everywhere.
Right. Great.
That's
It's
my answer.
just a regular night. That's
It's
great.
just
Yeah.
a regular
Just a
night,
regular night. I
and
like
we're
that.
making spaghetti from the box, friends,
Oh,
because
that's the
it's
right answer. That's the right answer. That's good.
a word you have been holding close to your heart is
Patience. This book actually was a big teacher of patience. I'm going to share on the Between Substack, our little publication that we push out every once in a while. I got a few kind of behind the scenes of the book coming out. I don't know when this podcast is going to come out. I don't know when those are going to come out, but in one of them, I write the backstory of the waiting game of trying to get this book published. Uh, I, the and part of the reason I say that is it's kind of a typical story. You get, I think I got 87 rejections from agents, and I don't know, 50 some rejections from publishers, and it's kind of a point of pride. Like that's fine with me. But there was a trying to get the book published. There was an element, sort of a behind the scenes administrative thing with a grant related to Between that I was waiting on. And there were a couple other things in my professional life and in my personal life where the entire year of basically between mid 2023 and mid 2024, I was just waiting. Like my whole life, it felt like this wasn't true, but it felt like my whole life was in waiting, and nothing bad. Like none of it was like, if these things don't happen, something bad, but it was like, if these things do happen, something good. And I was so hopeful and trying to convince myself, um, don't don't put your whole identity in if the book gets published or if the grant gets approved or if the whatever happen, whatever other things that I feel like I'm waiting on happen. It's one thing to tell yourself that. It's another thing to actually do it and to keep you know, to keep yourself from checking your email every morning. Like, oh, is today the day that I'm going to get word that this thing's happening, or is today the day that I'm going to hear back from the publisher who said maybe your book has potential, maybe. And so that was a no, and I'm not exaggerating, like a full year of
Mm,
waiting. One, like, there was promise, there was potential, and then there was silence for
yeah.
like a year in a number of parts of my life. And so this book was one of the lessons this book taught me was just, um, I actually posted about this on social media this morning, but that the brain moves faster than the soul, and that I've got to learn to move at the speed of my soul. And
Mm,
sometimes my soul is trying to slow me down, trying to tune me into to something deeper, to a resonance that is deeper than the loud ideas that are always churning at the front of my brain. And so lately, patience, even today, patience is the thing, right? So congratulations. In February of this year, 2025, in February 2025, I got word that, that this book was going to be published, and congratulations. My immediate response to the publisher was, thank you so much. When? Like when is it going to be published? And their answer was, we're not 100% sure yet, but earliest next year in February. And so it was like a year, and which was right. And it's taken, the editing process has taken that long. Of course, there's design work and there's promotion work, of course. But it was like, after I had spent well over a year, the answer
mm,
was, congratulations, wait a year.
mm,
And again, whatever, like it's not like anything. My world doesn't depend on if this book gets out into the world tomorrow, or if it's
mhm,
even if it's read by 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people. My life is still, everything's good, like it's okay. But that waiting is not my strength, Dani. And so there's been a lot of really grappling with patience lately.
mm.
That was one of your rapid fire questions, and I gave you a long answer, but thanks for
No,
asking.
that was, and it's a perfect segue moment into the next. But before we proceed on to more questions of the book, two things I want to emphasize. One, the fact that you were rejected so many times, like 87 times, but who's
Yeah,
counting?
yeah,
50 sometime. Who's
yeah.
keeping score here? And yet that resiliency and persistence to say yes, and okay, and thank you for your time, and this is still my dream, this is still my project, my baby, I'm still pushing it because I believe in it. And that's inspiring. So for anyone listening to the podcast, reading the book, to have in mind also that failure, that rejection that all of us experience as human beings, and still you can continue on. Like that is, I hope people hear that from this podcast and your story with this manuscript, with this book.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope there's a there's an element, Dani. I think you know this about me, and I've probably communicated it like on the podcast before and things that I write. Like there's an element of like, oh, Matt Mattson, published author, Cathedrals of Connection, buy it at mattmatson.com, like whatever. Like, by the way, that's not where you buy the book. I'll tell you
Don't
that.
go to
Don't, that's
mattmatson.com. We
not even,
don't want
that's
that.
somebody else's website. That's not even my own website. But there's an element of it might seem like I'm trying to make myself into a famous personality. Like there's Matt Mattson, famous, thoughtful, faith leader, guru, like no, I'm not, like no. In fact, I want to tell you how many times I got rejected so that you understand I'm not a fancy person. By the
Mm,
way, all the fancy people also get rejected a lot too, which is what gives me lots of confidence and gives me lots of like just resilience. A lot of those stories I heard from other authors I respect, they were like, oh no, man, all those rejections are completely normal. I looked at data about how many times most authors get rejected, and it turns out I was slightly above average in my level of rejection.
Matt Mattson, slightly above average.
Rejected more than most. That's right. But I say all that to say, like, this is not uh, putting myself in the middle of between. And I know I'm the face on most of the sermons and I'm doing most of the writing right now. That is not forever. That's not this is not me building the Matt Mattson channel. It is me saying I have space and I hear a calling to contribute in this way right now, to share these stories, to share this message, but not in not so that people think Matt Mattson has it figured out. This whole book is centered around the fact that I have no idea what I'm talking about. In fact, I offer like the structure of the book, Danny, you know this. The structure of the book includes like these five elements of sacred connection, but I, but I set it up as like I am definitely going to like change these the moment the book gets published. I'm so uncertain about all of this, but I'm trying. And in this moment, I want to invite you to try too, to figure out as much as we can about how to connect with the big things, the things that we seem to sense around us, this idea of God. How do we connect with God to the best of our ability right now as just regular humans, regular flawed kind of like average people? How do we just figure it out? And Danny, I think you know this too. I've got deep respect for higher education. I've got deep respect for ordination processes, the people who walk around with MDivs and doctorates and people who are learned and who are certified and who are ordained. I've got deep respect for those institutions. I've spent most of my career caring about institutions like that. And I don't think that you, Reverend Danny Hillyer, just because you are ordained and went to divinity school and have that, I don't think you get to in people with collars and frocks and cloaks. I don't think you get to hold the keys to anything. And I think that's part of what I want to share by sharing how many times I get rejected and sharing how uncertain I am about this stuff is that so is everybody. So are you, Danny. Like, I know you will. Like, by the way, so is every super esteemed, fancy ass reverend out there. Like, neat. I appreciate and respect for so many reasons that title, that background, but I don't grant you permission to keep anything from me or keep me from God in any way. I just don't grant that permission, and I think that's kind of a message that's hidden in the margins of this book.
Mm. Such a reformed theology type of thought, Matt. I do. I love that response. I think people too, your book displays this well. The that uncertainty, that curiosity, I should say. That's my favorite word that you often use is curiosity. And throughout the book, you are curious. Even in the beginning, you say, you know, books are very one sided. I don't know your story reading these pages, but together, as I'm telling my story, I hope you can grow in the confidence and curiosity of your own story. And, you know, you offer all this transparency about who you are with plenty of room for other people to fill in their story and their understanding and their questions, which I love because I'm a person when I pick up a book, it's that intimate part of your life that you're allowing someone else to have a momentary influence over what you're thinking about. And sometimes you pick up a book and it's telling you what to think. And especially in the world of theology, in the world of Christianity, of religion, there are so many books telling people what to believe, how to think. Whereas this book truly is that coffee shop dialogue. This is that gas station coffee counter of
Yeah.
let's open it up and think about this for a minute. Let's understand on a deeper level who we are, what we wrestle with, knowing that everyone wrestles with the same thoughts and questions and human experience just in different perspectives.
Yeah, I think the publisher did push to a different subtitle, "Everyday Sacredness." Um, that's it. Like this is just everyday people. I wanted to write this for people who feel like they're just everyday people with everyday questions about the big stuff of life and how it matters in their normal everyday live like at their dinner table tonight with their kids or at their when they go hang out with their aging parents or when they go to work and have a meeting with their supervisor. Like how does faith inform those interactions? How does
Mm,
their faith inform those interactions? And I don't think that it has to be any particular faith, by the way, to inform those interactions well. I write from my perspective and my own understanding of faith, which, by the way, I know a lot of people won't jive with. Dani, one of my favorite things that has happened so far in the promotion process of this book is I've asked some people I really respect who I know are theologically very different than me to like review the book and write a blurb. And I had somebody be like, "No, I can't do that. I disagree with too much of that." And I because I know and respect the professionalism of this person and the like. I was a not terribly surprised. B, um, I was also not like personally hurt or
Mhm.
moved by it in any way. I was just kind of like it. The only thing that surprised me is I don't think I'm a very controversial person, but I do think that some people will read this and find it challenging to some of the ways that they've been taught to um, to encounter faith and especially encounter Christianity. So anyway, I'm rambling.
What a courageous act that I'm not here to solve all the world's problems. I think with enough black coffee, we probably could get close. But more people, if they had the courage to ask someone who they know disagrees with them, to engage in conversation, to engage in dialogue, not attempting to, even in, the opening pages of the book, you're like, I'm not here to save your soul, to convert you. I'm not here to do any of those things. I'm here to offer something and offer my perspective that maybe you're someone who's never thought about these things. Maybe you're someone who feels trapped in a different way of thinking and you just need permission to think differently. But how different would our world be? How different would our communities be if we had the courage to look at people who disagree with us and say, let's talk about. You have a beautiful chapter, by the way, of a man named Fred who invites you to coffee and has like totally different political views of you, which I started sweating, by the way, when I even just like I'm reading the book and it's like the opening of this book, I was just like, "Whew, would I agree to coffee with that person?" I mean, pastorally, I'm supposed to, right? But like, I'm shaking going into those conversations, and yet you courageously say, "Yeah, like let's meet." And I think the first question is like, "What are your political beliefs?"
Yeah. To be clear though, I am not the hero in that story. I am the buffoon who created the experience that this person felt so challenged. Like literally, I was the buffoon in the story. Fred then is like sends me an email. Is like I would like to get to know you better. Can we meet for coffee? But I knew that like buried underneath this is this hardcore Republican, and here's me who's not. Anybody who listens knows that I'm probably not at this point. And like this is not a I'd love to get to know you because I think we could be friends. This is a I'd like to get to know you because what you said in that church council meeting makes me think you're trying to destroy everything that I love. And so, but he was the hero, man. Like he invited it, and he didn't shy away in the way that he engaged that conversation. And it was not vitriolic. It was not anger filled. It was not. It was love filled, but
Mhm.
love in the way that was direct and clear and named a challenge that he felt and invited me to like make sense of it. And
Mm.
in the conversation, literally at a coffee shop, it we made sense of it. We didn't agree, but we made sense of it, and that to me is a really powerful thing that matters in this moment in history. We don't have to agree, but we have to make sense of it. That the fact that Fred invited me into that and displayed that kind of wisdom in the way that he encountered me, man, what a lesson for the moment. We don't have to agree. We just have to make sense of it.
And I want to go even deeper with this story. It was not on my script, by the way, so
Yeah.
I'm like, we're
Yeah.
off script here for a moment. But the cathedrals of connection. How important is it when we think of our lives as these sacred connections with other people's lives? How important is it for those cathedrals that we create to be filled with people who disagree with us?
You know that I read about this in the book, but I've written about it in other places too, or I've talked about it in other places. That um, the 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 passage from Matthew that is like, when two or more gather in my name, there am I. Jesus saying that, like, I'm gonna show up if two or and I that passage is about conflict. It's about people who disagree. That it is literally, the context of that passage is not like anytime two people are together, Jesus is there walking along with them. Like there's a third set of footprints in the sand. That's not what that passage is about. That passage is about, if you are mad at somebody and you show up thoughtfully in my name, if you show up in the way Jesus has demonstrated to show up with people, humbly, caringly, washing feet metaphorically, like if that's how you show up, Jesus will show up too. Like that's the point of that. It's that if you, it's a message about conflict in the early church, how to deal with disagreement. Uh, and so it's almost like the model, the biblical model is, of course you're going to disagree dramatically. Of course you're going to find conflict between the poor and the empire. Of course to you're going to bump into things where you dramatically do not see eye to eye. But when you do that in a way that honors how sacred it is that you get to come together, God shows up in that space and helps facilitate. And like I, I don't know, that's what I think. That's how I respond to that question.
The word you used in that response that I think is so important is honor. How do you show up to honor yourself and respect yourself, and also equally honor and respect other people's stories, especially other people who come from different backgrounds and different stories and different faith traditions and different beliefs. And we call that church. We call that we call that life. We call that relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And if it's not church, if it's just a group of people who all absolutely agree, absolutely about absolutely everything, it's just not church. Like that's a joke. Or it's a really big problem. One of those two things, like it, to honor other human beings, to honor this concept of creation is to honor it is to appreciate and uplift and celebrate those differences, even the ones that you really do not like and that are hurtful. To
Mhm.
honor that means to understand that those hurtful perspectives, those hurtful behaviors come from somewhere. They come from the real life of a hurting human being. They come from suffering. That is, for me, that word honor sparks, like
Mhm.
that's hard. Like that is the most difficult invitation. That love your enemy is a really cute tagline until you understand that it's like, like honor that like love
Mm.
that horribly acting person, and understand that it is honor the fact that it comes from real human suffering. And yeah, it might be causing more. Yes. And it comes from real human suffering. That's what it means to love. That's what it means to honor.
Mm. Mm. You've shared a bit about your faith journey, and this book really is a lot of your own wrestlings with bigger questions and what is sacred and what is holy and who is God and who am I in the midst of this, and how I want to know, how does this book connect with your faith journey, and was there like a particular moment? I know I've heard you say this phrase obviously for a while now with the project of between, but What was the moment for you in your faith journey where you thought to yourself, the space between us is sacred?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different moments. Here, you know what? Here's what I want to say to that. This book is uh, this book is me working out beliefs. This book is not me reporting established beliefs. Is that okay to say? Like, also, I want to say, I think that's true of everybody. Anybody who claims that that is not true, I think you got to look at a little skeptically. Like, uh, I, I'm not here to position myself as somebody who has anything figured out or worked out or has clarity on really much at all. This book is this book was me grappling and trying to use language, trying to use words and stories and scripture. I mean, every chapter, there's 40 chapters, all sort of try to root everything in something, some ancient thought, some scriptural passage. And it's me just wrestling with all that, like in out loud in real time. And one of the um, one of the things that has scared me a little bit about this book is that I wrote it. I mean, I started writing this a little over 2 years ago at this point, or something like that. Like whenever it was, Labor Day 2023, Labor Day weekend 2023, in my hammock in my backyard with my phone. That's when I started writing it. Like at this point, when it comes out in January, or excuse me, when it comes out in February 2026, do I still believe those things? Like that has scared me, which
Mm,
has been part of what I've loved about the editing process, the patience that I've had to have, right? This wasn't like I had these ideas yesterday, popped them out. I can sell them. I can market them. Here's a cool idea that I had yesterday. This is like, I've had to sit with this for years now.
mhm,
And every edit, I just finished another edit pass. It's October when we're recording this. It's September, late September in like, do I still believe it? That whole editing pass
mm,
was, do I still believe all of it? And to be honest, the answer was, yeah. Actually, this doesn't feel like thoughts. This feels like something deeper than that. See, it doesn't feel like it came from here in my head. It feels like it came from here in my heart. And there's truth under all this.
mm,
And so, sorry, you asked, like, is there a moment that where I realized the space between us was sacred? Yeah, I write about some of those in the book. I write about, coffee conversations and airplane rides with our friend and
mhm,
uh, previous podcast guest, Reverend Justin Spurlock. I write about, but part of my answer to that is that upon reflection, every story shared in the book is me having an incremental realization of how sacred all of those interactions have been and are. And it's changed how I look at every interaction since, and the way I move forward into my life, the level to which I can see how sacred something could be before I get there. Not always, not like uh, maybe not even half the time, but I'm better at noticing. Oh, this encounter, I can see this encounter as deep, as real, as being connected to something that is beyond just the surface of what it seems like. I can see this encounter as sacred. And if I treat it that way, maybe it'll change us, the people in the encounter. And maybe I'll have some new insight. I'll have some new realization. I'll be tapped into some deeper truth that I couldn't see before.
mm. So when you approach any interaction, and this might be somebody's, question with this book, first time hearing, space between us is sacred even. When you approach these interactions, are you already naming it as sacred? Or are you waiting for sacred to show up?
Oh, yeah, great question. One of the first big questions that the publisher, like on a first editing pass, asked was, and I had to add a chapter because of this question. The question was like, you never define what you mean by sacred. Like, what do you mean? What
Mm.
That's a pretty big word to put right smack in the middle of every chapter you write. Like, what are you talking about? And so I ended up adding a chapter where I name the fact that I don't really know what sacred is, but but I think it has a little bit to do with our readiness for it. I
Mm,
think it has a little bit to do with whether or not we're willing to maybe put on the glasses through which we can see something as sacred. And so I think my answer to your question is when I walk up to the next person, I've got a meeting, you know, downtown Denver today. When I go to that meeting today, there'll be 6 or 7 people in a meeting room, and I mean, probably I'll be distracted between now and then, and I will have listened to the news on the radio, and I will be angry, and I will be raging at whatever's happening and burning in the world, and I will then get a text from my kid who's like, "Oh, I need this thing signed for school," and then I'll realize that I've got 7 other to do items this afternoon, and I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I've got to buy this for dinner. We're hosting dinner at our house tomorrow night. Like and I will be so distracted by the time I get there that I will walk into that room and just sit down, and I will just be reeling, right? But maybe I'll take a breath before I go in,
mhm,
and I'll realize these are real human beings who are all have their own stuff going on, and I'll realize, boy, I don't get to have meetings like this very often.
mm,
And in fact, this is kind of a special group of people. Like, these people have dedicated their whole careers, their whole lives at this moment to this thing, and we're all coming in together to talk about it. And that's rare.
mm,
And these people are some of them are hurting. Some of these people are dealing with grief and loss and sorrow, and some people are trying to have trauma packed inside that they haven't figured out how to deal with. And I'm one of those people. And what a beautiful thing this is.
mm.
Like, in this, like, maybe I will pause and look around that table in the meeting room and everybody drinking bad, conference room coffee. And I'll be like, this is God here with us. That person there
Mm.
and this person here and this space between us, this is God. And I get to notice that or not. And so most of the time, though, no. Most of the time, I'm busy. Most of the time, I'm running. I'm
Mm.
task oriented. I'm focused on what's next and what just happened and why I'm angry and why I'm nervous and anxious and all those other things.
I love how you give that illustration of life, because I think when people think of someone like you who, has dedicated so much of your life to spirituality and questioning and a book about sacred togetherness and sacred spaces, and then they think of, pastors and priests and rabbis and all these faith leaders, people think that we live in a very contained lifestyle of everything is prayerful, everything is peaceful, everything. And I hope most people don't believe that, because it's true. Like, it's the kids are screaming at each other. I have to do 7,000 things because the school has asked me to do these things. Oh yeah, we have to make dinner. Oh yeah, we don't have ingredients to make dinner. Like, it's the life, right? Like the sacred, kind of back to that first phrase that we talked about, ministry happens in the interruptions, life happens in the interruptions. And a thought that I had meant to say earlier that I was going to say, but is the waiting, that life also happens in the waiting, that this whole process for you has been this patiently waiting the next step. We're always waiting till the next meeting, the next encounter. And sacred is all of it. Sacred is in the milestones of the day and the tasks of the day, and sacred is in the driving to and from, the waiting for your coffee in line, the waiting for to check out at the grocery stores. Like, it's sacred. Sacred is there, as you said. It's whether we choose to open ourselves up to encounter that.
Yeah, I really, it's whether we choose. Well said, Danny. Whether we choose to open ourselves up to encounter it or not, whether we're ready for it or not, whether we're tuned in or tuned out. And I use that metaphor all the time. It's funny how I don't know why I use this metaphor all the time, but I'm constantly returning to this, like, frequency. Like, am I tuned in to God's frequency or not?
Mm,
That's like a really simple, like, I'm using a radio dial. You don't even tune the radio like that anymore, do you? It's like
I do.
like
I don't have
clicking
Bluetooth in my
the
car.
TV station from when I was a little tiny kid. Like, but like that tuning into a frequency
Mm,
um, is I'm so often tuned into this frequency of the everyday, like the noise around me and the whatever my phone tells me to notice, and how fast every day. Like that's normally where really normally where I am, and every once in a while, if I can just change the channel, listen to what maybe God might be speaking into this moment. That sounds like dumb Christianese nonsense that I just said, but I don't know. Like that's part of what makes sense to me. Is that's part of what this book is about? Is like, how can I invite people to think about stories just like the stories I'm telling, the moments
mhm,
just like the moments I'm talking about in the book? How can I invite people to maybe tilt their head and notice that moment a little
mm,
differently? Like, oh, did you not see this is maybe one of my favorite things about the book is how many of my own stories from my own life that I've never told anybody before, or that I've never sort of packaged and shared before in a sermon or a speech or a written piece. How many of those stories that if I tilted my head a little bit and looked at were like beautiful sacred moments that if I hadn't had man, everybody should try to write a book like this so that they can look back at their moments, tilt their head differently, and be like, did you not see how
mm,
God was there? Did you not see how divinely filled that and colorful that moment really was? Because otherwise those memories just kind of get locked back in the cage of your mind. And I
mm.
don't know. That's a gift that I got from writing this book.
And you truthfully just answered one of my final questions of the podcast uh, of what do you want? If someone reads your book, reads the whole thing cover to cover, and carries just one truth away, what do you hope that is? And I'll let you answer in a second, but I think you also just wrapped it up of having people reflect on their own lives. That was the gift that Cathedrals of Connection was for me too, is how many times it sparked a memory for me, a similar story that I said, oh, I had an interaction like that one time that did feel sacred. And in fact, I remember it so vividly because it was so sacred. And I think you offer that to people of saying, this is my ordinary life. These are ordinary encounters. These are everyday things that happened. And I chose to tune in and awaken to how impactful and how sacred that connection was.
Yeah. You know, if you go to cathedralsofconnection.com and pre-order the book right now, what you'll see there, the reason I say that is like I tried like writing language to put on a website for the book about the book was harder than writing the book. Like who
Mm,
is this for? What is this about? What are you trying to convince people when you wrote this book? What do you want people to see? And so like if I think about what's there at cathedralsofconnection.com, or you can pre-order your book right now. There's an element of I wanted this book to show up in the lives of people who are deconstructing and reconstructing their faith, and offer really simple invitation that says, I know religious spaces have been harmful for you in the past for any number of reasons. You've left that space for a reason, and I honor that and respect that. And I'm not here to say anything, to even comment on it, except that it probably hurts bad. And I'm
mm,
standing next to you. And if you still crave God, if you still crave this direct encounter with the divine, if you still long if your spirit is still burbling inside and begging to be fed, good news. And by the way, I think this was the good news that Jesus had to share. We are meant to be together. And there is absolute sacredness in the simplicity of togetherness. In our everyday encounters, they are sacred. And I think that was the good news. The good news was the kingdom is already here. This idea of heaven brought to earth, it's already here. And we're invited to construct a cathedral around ourselves and the next person we encounter and celebrate it and worship the fact that we're already living in the kingdom of God. We are already in it. We are already in the land of milk and honey. We are already in the everything that the ancients dreamed of. It's already here in the space between us. All we have to do is live into it. All we have to do is make those choices and see that space as sacred and realize that this space between you and me right now, this is all we get. This is it. This is life. This is where it is. This is where it all happens. All the other stuff has been practice. Everything else has been preparing you for this moment, this encounter, this interaction. This is all we have. This is eternity right now in this moment. And man, I want to invite people to feel that and realize that they don't need a faith institution to feel it. If they have a faith institution that celebrates that and that reminds them of that, that's wonderful. But if they've been hurt by that, if they've left that space, if they've just been disenchanted like I was as a kid, just bored by church, bored by the idea of religious institutions, not compelled by it at all, good news. There's a coffee shop down the street, and there's a neighbor who needs to be invited, and there is a sacred moment that is just a few steps away.
Amen. If anybody listening felt the energy through their body as they were listening to Matt just then, go check out Cathedrals of Connection. Cathedralsofconnection.com. Pre-order today. Pre-orders are really important. I didn't know this. I'm not an author. Pre-orders are very important for the life of the book, the life of the author. So please go pre-order a copy of Cathedral of Connection. Pre-order a copy for your neighbor and your coworker or that person that's coming to your mind right now as well that you are thinking of with this podcast. Matt, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to interview you, to letting us in about, the backstory of Cathedrals of Connection, this everyday sacredness. You just gave like the best sermon. I should just, copy paste that for Sunday. But anything else that you want to leave your listeners or your readers with today?
No, I just want to say, Dani, you are by far my second favorite host of the Between podcast. And I think I might be my favorite guest of the Between podcast. We should do this all the time. If we could make this about me, that'd be terrific. No, thanks, Dani.
MattMattson.com. No, don't go.
No, don't go there. That's not my website.
That's another Matt Mattson that we should pre-order him a copy.
Shout out to that guy. Yeah. Actually, I don't know. I've Googled a couple other Matt Mattsons. I've been like, I hope people don't think I'm that guy. So anyway, no, Dani, just thanks. Thanks for, this has been sacred. It always is. This is why I love you and I doing this show together. We get to, I think, demonstrate what it looks like to just try to create a space that is more than ordinary, that is more than earthly, that is sacred. I appreciate you.
That is sacred. Likewise. Friends, thank you for joining another episode of the Between podcast. Go with God's love and create the church between.